Uh, John Anderson has given us a marvelous challenge, and if you haven't responded to that, please do. We have some good news and some interesting news for you, and we'll give that out in the next few days uh, as we get the numbers in. Um, we have made a mistake of missing Juneteenth, and I don't know how we did that. We missed Juneteenth, and today is the famous Stonewall riot. And if you're not aware of the Stonewall riot, what happened in New York was gay bars were allowed to operate if they paid the cops and everybody else a lot of money so the cops wouldn't raid them. And the Stonewall I'm trying to remember exactly how that happened, but some cops came in and they threw them out. The cops were dumbfounded. And so they came back in force. They got thrown out in force. And all interesting stuff broke loose, and a riot took place for 2 or 3 days, and everybody else from the neighborhood joined in. It was wild. And today is the Gay Pride Parade, also in New York City. Okay, didn't know that. Okay, so we've got Juneteenth. And by the way, I just let me say this because I have to say it. I hope that the Supreme Court Justice Alito, who said when he read Trump's remarks about Haitians and said that they weren't racist, I hope he has a really good way of explaining how he came to that conclusion and as he faces the hereafter. The remarks that Trump gave about the Haitian community over the years were printed up. And if that's not racist, I just, yeah. All right, moving right along. PACT. Nick Osterman, the Homers, and Glima have been part of PACT. PACT is People Acting for Community Together. They got us to join, all souls to join this year. PACT just had a big, big score for the community. There was a building that was suggested to be used free for free care, nonprofit care for mentally ill and mental issues in Miami-Dade County. Some people were interested in making money, were against this, and wanted to turn it in mental health, which it was a pay as you go, to make profit. The some powers that be were interested in this and wouldn't even bring it up to discussion on the county council. PACT got involved, which organized dozens of churches, mosques, and synagogues, and they slammed the council with incredible pressure until a majority of the council was against doing this for money and said, we need to have this for nonprofit. We need to have this for our people, period. And the pressure got so overwhelming that not only did the council chairman finally put it on the docket, when the vote came, it was unanimous. This is a big deal, offering mental health facilities and care for Miami-Dade County. It's better late than never. Okay, and Nick and the Homers and Glima were very heavily involved in this and got us to join. Okay, some things about our budget. A couple of suggestions, which I hope you'll like. It would be nice, one of our members said, if we put every month what our needs were for the month and how we made it for the month, what we were missing, or did we make what we needed? If we needed X for the month, how much money was given so the congregation knows at any given time where we're at. So people have an idea of what's going on. I have to bring this up to the board. The other thing was, I don't know if any of you remember of going to services in the past, but when flowers were given, they were usually given in honor of or in memory of or something like that. We don't have flowers, but the question is suggested, why don't we offer suggestions of taking a sponsoring part of the service? Would somebody like to sponsor the share? Would somebody like to sponsor the agape? Would somebody like to sponsor the call to worship in the beginning call to prayer? And we could offer a thing of that. And so people could sponsor that. It would be in the bulletin. And that would be a way of helping the budget too. So these are things I'm going to bring to the board. Felix is going to call the board for a special meeting so we can talk about how we look for the next several months. Now, the next thing is we have two things coming up. Speaking of major issues, number one is Venezuela. As you well know, has had back-to-back earthquakes, and it is a disaster. I mean, just an incredible disaster. Okay, Danny, I'll answer that in just a minute. We've had incredible 2 earthquakes back to back. But speaking of earthquakes, Haiti had an earthquake a few years back, and it was absolutely devastating. Several hundred, was it 200,000 people died? It was just insane. Orphans all over the place. And I don't know if you're aware of this. Anybody's aware of this. Our own Nikki Lindquist started an orphanage because of all the orphans that were in Haiti. And she had a building on property of her grandparents. And then the gang violence took over, and they took over her property, which is for the orphans. Now, Haiti, now, I don't know if you know Nikki, but Nikki has got some Scots in her. It must be, because she's stubborn, just like a Scot. And this is not going to stop her. So she goes to Haiti and goes looking for where there are remote parts of Haiti that the gangs are not going to be interested because they are remote and desolate. And she found a remote village and a local priest who was trying to desperately as he can to get orphans and stuff. So she said, well, my orphanage group will support your orphanage group so we can bring orphans together, because this is an area nobody's interested in, which is good to keep the gangs out, but they need food and they need clothing. And she said that the areas that it really is in bad conditions. Everybody's living on dirt floors and stuff, and it's something from another era. So Nikki is organizing a walk at the end of July, and is asking if anybody would be interested in supporting her orphanage for the Haitian orphans. And I said I would gladly do it personally, but I will also bring it to the board and ask the board would suggest that All Souls support this as well. And I really think this is one of those worthwhile. You say you believe in things, we'll do something about it. Same thing if something comes up. Our Venezuelan members, if something comes up that we can offer something as well, this is time to be supportive. There's an old phrase, be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. I don't know if any of you remember that phrase. Zoroastrians used to say, good thoughts, good words, but good thoughts and good words are nothing without good deeds. So we have a chance to help orphans. We have a chance to help the people in Venezuela. I think these are really, really calling to us if we can. Okay. Last thing, Danny wanted to ask a question about. John Anderson has offered a $500 grant if anybody can meet that. Let me just say, initially, the first offerings of people, a lot of which were unexpected, including my first girlfriend in high school, in college, and other people I'd not expected, have given. And we have met that challenge and more. And so the question is, how do we not only deal with our deficit now, which is going to be made up, but how do we stop something in the future? We've still got 6 months to go. So the board and I are going to be wrestling with this, and Tracy, the rest is wrestling with us. Tracy is not today, but starting from now on, Tracy's job, one of her jobs is going to be, is to gently remind us how every Sunday to remind us we don't pass a plate, but there's still a plate there and we need to give. And this is my fault. I take total credit for this. I don't like asking for money, but we have to do it. And Tracy's going to do it in a kind and gentle way to remind everybody we have needs. And she's good at this. And I'm glad to say that somebody on our staff is. So this is my fault. And I take, unfortunately, credit for it. It's not yeah. So one more time before we begin then, before we do the memorial candle. Tracy's with us, Dr. Barrett's with us, Bobby Vance is sharing again. Bobby, let me remind you and everybody else, when you have the itch, we're glad to have you share. Now, I want you to know how democratically this works. I called Bobby and I said, out of the blue, do you have an itch? He said, what are you talking about? I said, thank you for having an itch to share at the end of June. He said, what is that? Why? I said, thank you. I mean, so I just want you to know things are done very gently and kindly, and I will probably pay for this. Karma. Felix is with us this morning. Maureen is with us. Gallus with us. And Gallus, by the way, is reminding us about this new whole thing about how working with dogs for a day from the dog shelter for dogs who need comfort and companionship and vice versa. I'll let you know more about that. It's a great program. Nikki is with us. Digit's with us. Pat Sullivan, Danny Sorkin, Cindy Deitch from Port Orange, and Pat Care is with us as well. Our memorial candle, everybody. Let us remember the victims in Venezuela, everywhere in Venezuela. Let us also remember orphans now who are suffering in Haiti, who have they're babies, they're little kids. They have no idea what's going on, and they're thrust into these horrible living conditions. So let us remember them both and keep us close, and let us support them as best as we can, individually and as a congregation. May it be so. Our introit is from the New York Vocal Collective. Wow, what an introit. Please join with me, if you would, in the green for the call to worship from Amanda Gorman. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in the never-ending shade?
We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and the notions of what just isn't always justice.
So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? How could catastrophe prevail over us?
We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, the benevolent but bold, fierce and free.
And those of you who would join me in the call to worship. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive, and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days, while at the same time blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know we must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. Thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live.
I, as a responsible adult human being, will never concede the power to anyone to regulate my choice of what I put into my body or where I go with my mind. From the skin inward is my jurisdiction, is it not? I choose what may or may not cross that border. Here I am the customs agent. Here I am the Coast Guard. I am the sole legal and spiritual government of this territory, and only the laws I choose to enact within myself are applicable. Alexander Shulgin. Now, if you'll join me in a responsive reading. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted,
and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair. Oh, where am I? I got lost.
You're in the green.
Oh, with this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning.
My country, 'tis thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
And when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day.
When all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
And a reading by William O. Douglas. As nightfall does not come all at once, neither does oppression. In both instances, there is a twilight when everything remains seemingly unchanged. And it is in such twilight that we all must be most aware of the change in the air, however slight, lest we become unwitting victims of the darkness.
The power of proofreading. Juneteenth didn't happen in 1965, even though the song repeatedly said that. 1865 would be a more accurate, but the music was good, so we'll give him a pass. I hope everybody had a good Juneteenth. Juneteenth is tending not just to be a day, June 19th, but a period around June 19th. And since it's been a legal federal holiday, I can see that it's setting roots in America. It's taking hold. More people know about it. But I just want to speak about something that also happened in 1865 that doesn't get as much attention. The idea for the Statue of Liberty was born in 1865.
Oh,
The Civil War had just ended. 4 million enslaved people had been set free. And so the United States stood at a crossroads. And across the pond in France, a prominent abolitionist, Edward de la Boulaye, looked across the Atlantic and he saw something unprecedented. To him, America had done what monarchies had failed to do. It had ended slavery through a Republican government. So Laboulaye didn't propose a statue to celebrate immigration. Let me repeat that again. Laboulaye didn't propose a statue to celebrate immigration. He proposed a monument to emancipation and democratic struggle, a message to both America and France about the promise of liberty. And just look at the title, the original title of this statue, Liberty Enlightening the World. So Laboulaye was welcoming not the world, he was not feeding the poor, he was enlightening, dispelling a darkness. And since Laboulaye was an abolitionist, darkness meant to an abolitionist tyranny, bondage, and slavery. And if you look at the early designs by the sculptor Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, he made this explicit because in some of his early sketches, Liberty held the broken chains in her hands. So the message was unavoidable, bondage shattered. But as the statue moved closer to construction, something changed. The chains were not removed, but they were moved. Today, these chains sit at her feet, partially hidden and rarely photographed. And this was not an artistic accident. Because by the 1870s, America's relations to Black freedom had shifted. Reconstruction was under attack, white supremacist violence was rising, and the Northern enthusiasm for Black rights were collapsing. So a statue openly celebrating the destruction of slavery had become inconvenient. So the symbolism was muted. The chains were moved out of sight. The emphasis was placed now on the torch and the tablet, and slavery was acknowledged only quietly. So liberty still stands on broken shackles, but you have to look for them. And that too is a metaphor. Liberty now holds a tablet inscribed with a date, July 4th, 1776. And this matters because this statue ties emancipation to the unfinished promise of the Declaration of Independence. The message was not, we are free because we are generous. The message is, we are free because slavery violated the law of liberty itself. So the abolitionists, slavery was not just cruel, it was illegal in moral terms. So the statue represented a belief that chains can be broken, law must replace them, or bondage will return in another form. And it did. Now, the Black Americans immediately understood what was happening with the statue. Frederick Douglass saw liberty clearly, and he did not reject the symbol. He challenged the nation to live up to it. So as liberty rose in the harbor of New York, Black men were losing the vote. Black labor was being re-enslaved through convict leasing, and Black lives were being erased through terror. So the statue wasn't lying, actually, America was. So liberty stood as proof of freedom. Not really. It stood as evidence of a betrayal. So how did we get the Statue of Liberty that we all know today? Well, in 1883, a poem was written to help raise funds for the statue's pedestal. It was called The New Colossus by Emma Lazarus. And her words reframed liberty. And we all know the words, give me your tired, your poor. It was a beautiful poem, but it changed everything about what the Statue of Liberty was supposed to be about. The immigration symbolism was safer than emancipation. It was less accusatory and less likely to force a reckoning with racial injustice. So as Jim Crow hardened in America, America enthusiastically embraced a version of liberty that looked forward rather than inward, and certainly not backwards. So the statue didn't change, but the story did. So when the Statue of Liberty was finally unveiled in 1886, Black Americans were excluded from many ceremonies. Black civil rights were collapsing, and lynching had become a public spectacle. So as liberty rose, freedom fell. And the contradiction is not a flaw in the statue, that's the point. So the connection between American slavery and the Statue of Liberty, number one, the statue exists because slavery ended. It was built to commemorate emancipation. Its chains are real, its symbolism is deliberate, but its silence is telling. Liberty does not stand for American innocence, it stands over American contradiction. And she reminds us that freedom can be declared, but not delivered. And that distance between the two, the gap between promise and practice, is where history happens. So if you ever wonder why the change is so hard to see, just ask yourself, who benefits from not looking down. I lived in New York all my life, and I have never been to the Statue of Liberty. My friends have never been to the Statue of Liberty. My children have not been to the Statue of Liberty. My parents have never been to the Statue of Liberty because simply the Statue of Liberty was not for us. And if anything, it just told us the message of how hardworking and diligent European immigrants came to this country and they made the way and they made America. And I and people like me are still looking back, talking about something that happened hundreds of years ago and being told, get over it. Nobody now is a slave. Nobody now owns any slaves. Why can't you be like the immigrants coming through Ellis Island? So I just wanted to say in conclusion that I was born in 1953, not in chains, not in fields, not under a master's names, but don't get it twisted. I was born close enough to hear the echo. They say slavery like it's ancient, like pyramids, like fossils, like something buried deep to stop hurting. But I was born 3 generations away from a stolen life. 3, not centuries, grandmothers. My mother, born in the 1930s, was raised in a world with signs on doors and limits on dreams. She didn't know slavery, but she knew its rules. She knew where not to stand. She knew what not to say. She knew how to make herself smaller so the world wouldn't make her disappear. And that knowledge that she had was inherited. My grandmother, born around 1900, now the story gets closer. She was raised by people who didn't learn slavery from books. They remembered. Freedom to them wasn't a concept. It was a before and after. A line drawn in 1865 after American Civil War and stamped into law by the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution. But let me tell you something. People can declare freedom, but it can't deliver it. Now, my great-grandmother, that's where the distance collapsed. Born in the 1860s, maybe just before freedom, maybe just after, but raised by people who had no before, only bondage. She didn't study slavery. She inherited the aftermath, the silence, the caution, the way pain travels without words. And her parents, let's not clean it up. They weren't slaves, not workers, not servants, not softened language for a hardened truth, enslaved, bought, sold, measured in labor, not humanity. So when I say I was born in 1953, understand what I'm really saying. Slavery wasn't gone, it was still speaking. Through my grandmother's stories, through my mother's warnings, through the way history sat down at the dinner table and never left. 3 generations. That means somewhere in my family, freedom was not a lesson, it was a shock. A moment when someone stood still and wondered, what now? No land, no protection, just a word, free, floating in a country that hadn't decided what the word free meant. And we carried that question forward through Jim Crow, through migration, through resistance, through survival, until it got to me in 1953. So don't tell me slavery is distant. Don't tell me it's over there, far away, long ago, because I can count it on 1 hand. 1, 2, 3. That's the distance between me and chains. I was born in 1953, but I carry 1865 in my bones. Every step I take forward is a step that they were never allowed to take. So just 3 generations away and still walking. Thank you. Selah. Peace be with you.
Amen. Amen.
When we listen to Bobby's words, it is a sad commentary that not only politically did much of what he say happen, it even happened religiously. Communion services were not for everybody. I'm dumbfounded about that. You read in the history of the United States, Blacks were not allowed to be in the same sanctuary unless they went up top or they had to meet outside. And the idea of having Black and white take communion together, not allowed. And I don't understand this for a moment. And that's because I guess I'm just stupid. I cannot understand how you can possibly say Jesus, who was a peasant woodworker and carpenter and was involved with all kinds of people, Samaritans, women, lepers. Everybody forgets the lepers. The famous story of 10 lepers. People wouldn't get near lepers. They're scared you get leprosy. I mean, and once he goes up and talks to them and blesses them and stays right with them. And then we turn around and say, what? Oh, I love Jesus, but somehow we don't find it easy to follow his example of welcoming everybody. Let us be very clear when we break bread in this congregation from the very beginning. The bread is for everybody that comes. Let us be very clear, the cup is for everybody that comes. Everybody is welcome here. We are all souls. Now, if you're looking for a saintly bunch, forget it. This is not us. If you're looking for all kinds and sorts of conditions, that is us. Different backgrounds, different races, different ways of thinking and processing, but we hold each other close as we navigate, as Melville called this strange mixed affair we call life. The bread we share, the cup we share, goes back into antiquity, millennia. Jesus will offer this bread and this cup to many. And after he dies, that will continue as an open meal to all who wish to gather. That, unfortunately, will end in Christianity's evolving, but some of us reclaimed it. And All Souls reclaims that open meal for all. May it be so. May all be welcome here. May we welcome all. May it be so. Amen. The words of our resident theologian are not limited to race or gender. It's a good thing, too. Because here they go, and I ask you to read them with me with some vigor. Promise me you'll remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. God didn't promise days without pain, laughter without sorrows, and sun without rain. But the divine did promise strength for the day, comfort for the tears, and light for the way. And Tracy will lead us with the concluding prayer.
We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for.
Now may the road rise to meet you. And may the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rains fall softly upon your fields. But in all of this, and more importantly, when we meet again, may the divine in me greet and embrace the divine in you. May it be so. Amen. Not only does Bobby have great words, your use of vocabulary is amazing, Bobby. It's just amazing. But he chose the music. And I kept on thinking, I hope you feel like I am. I am blessed that we have a variety of people who can choose different music. I cannot thank you enough for having Bobby preach, saying yes to Bobby preaching, because he brings music and ideas. Tracy brings different music. Michelle brings different. We have, if it was just me, this place would be bankrupt. Seriously, it would be a poor shadow of the kinds of music and ideas and rhythm you all have. And I listened to Bobby's music and I said, where have I been? How did I miss all this? So you educate us all, Bobby, and you bring stuff to you. Nikki reminds us of islands and other areas, and Felix reminds us of Venice. We all bring this stuff, and I cannot tell you how great that is, and thank you. Now, I will be calling Bobby again for the itch, the famous itch to speak, just so you all know that. The understanding is with Bobby and I, when he has an itch, he will call me, but sometimes the Spirit moves me first to call him.
We can listen to Bobby all day.
So blessings be to you all. Thank you, Dr. Barrett, for being with us and helping this morning. Thank you so much, Bobby. Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Maureen. Thank you, Gala, who's going to tell us about and send this thing about this new program with dogs. They'll be very helpful for lots of us, I suspect. Nikki, thank you very much for bringing us aware of a sad situation in Haiti that we can maybe help a little bit with, okay? Thank you. Thank you for the untiring work, the actual work you do. Thank you, Digit, for this morning in tech. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Cindy. And thank you, Pat and Care. Thank you so much for being with us. Bless you all.
Thank you, Reverend Ken. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Bobby.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.